In this class we'll look at action planning. First of all, what is action planning? Well, it's a process which focuses on the achievement of specific and well-defined goals over a given time period. It's as simple as that. Action planning is attempting to achieve specific and well-defined goals over a time period. The plan should specify the steps or tasks that are necessary to achieve the stated goal. So an action plan should set out the steps that need to be undertaken in order to achieve the goal. Now, the likely steps in an action plan. Well, first of all, identify clear objectives, and the objectives, of course, should be both achievable and measurable. They need to be achievable, otherwise people will not try even to start. They won't even start looking at implementing the action plan. So the objectives have to be achievable. It must be possible to do what has been planned. And of course measurable, otherwise we won't know if the plan has been successful or not. The required steps should be listed and prioritized. And there should be a logical order to the steps, and also a complete list. Maybe just a list where ticks can be put when certain parts of the plan have been achieved. But the steps should be listed and prioritized. Some steps in the action plan may be more important than others. Some can have low priority, can be achieved towards the end. But perhaps some of the steps are vital to the success or failure of the plan. And also estimate a realistic time for completion. Each task should be planned out, so there should be some time allowance to achieve each task so that the overall plan can also be measured in terms of the time it will take. So there's a good estimate of how much time the whole task will, the whole project, if you like, will take. Attempt to make accurate estimates of resources required to achieve the objective. Guessing how much is going to be required may not be good enough. Try to calculate and try to be realistic in terms of the resources, the time that it will take, the people that will be involved, the transport, the materials, or whatever is required by the plan. Try to make realistic estimates of what is required. So again, if you like, the preconditions for the plan can be worked out. What's needed before the action plan is put into progress. If decision nodes are encountered in the plan, then branch into other plans that are compatible with the routes in the decision. So when decision nodes are met, for example, to carry on or to change direction, to do it this way or to do it that way, when these sort of decision nodes are met, as far as possible, rational decision, calculated decisions should be attempted, if at all possible, because it's important to take the right route. If an immediate solution can't be found, one that stands out from the other one, then look at perhaps similar plans that have been implemented in the past, if possible, or ask others for their experiences. Try to make good decisions at the point of the decision node. Good decisions that will enable the plan to be successful, and it will also save resources, time, resources, and so on, in the future implementation of the plan or the continuance of the existing plan. So it's important that as much information can be collected as possible at the point of a decision node about the implications of going in one direction as opposed to going in the other. If the plan fails, it's always wise to have a plan B, a backup plan, something just in case. So if some part of the plan fails, then, and perhaps the whole plan fails as a consequence, then it's important to have some sort of contingency planning, some sort of reserve ideas about what can be done to, again, achieve the outputs that are required. So having tried one particular strategy, if that fails, go to a second strategy, a plan B. Now, action planning, the scope and benefits of this, well, the act of writing down ideas make them less abstract and more achievable. So it's always a good idea when you have an idea, have a plan in mind, write it down, because in some respects it takes it out of your head, it puts it onto paper, it becomes less abstract, it becomes more achievable, because the issue is not floating around in your head, it's now written down, and it becomes almost objective. You can see it on paper, so it's worth writing it down and then thinking about it, and perhaps making notes on the paper and drawing little diagrams, joining up ideas, so the whole plan can take form on a piece of paper, and a better solution can be achieved this way, one which is more likely to succeed, because more of the downsides, more problems can be anticipated and dealt with just by playing around with ideas on a piece of paper. A good action plan gives focus and direction and is more likely to achieve the desired outcome. So it's imperative that the whole planning process is well implemented and well thought out. So there is good focus on the part of those trying to implement the plan and develop the plan. There is good direction. In terms of implementation, the person implementing the plan knows where they want to be, knows what the likely outcomes should be, having followed the plan. So the action plan gives direction, and often that's very important. It's important to us that we're not just drifting along, making decisions haphazardly as we go. We have an action plan. We've got a sense of direction, a sense of focus. The plan should identify obstacles and impediments, and should also offer solutions, if possible, to overcome these obstacles and impediments. When there are problems that may be anticipated, it's always wise to try and find workarounds, find a way around the problem. See what can be done to avoid the problem. If a problem can be anticipated somewhere into the future, then start planning now to try and get round the problem, so that when the problem arises, it's almost dealt with straight away. It's been anticipated and solutions have been found. Sometimes we don't know what the final goal is. We have a vague idea of what it is, and therefore we may have several goals that we write down because we're not sure of which one specifically we want to achieve. So an action plan is required perhaps for each goal. Sometimes when people are anticipating going to university, they want to go to university, but they're not quite sure what they want to study. They might want to study accountancy. Others might want to study economics, or others again engineering or mathematics or computer science or whatever. So in a sense, the first objective has been met. They want to go to university. They want to study at degree level. So that box is ticked. Now they must look out for what are the admissions criteria, what do the universities require of them before they can get entry. But then they must also decide what course to study. And that takes them into a second layer of considerations, and the need to have plans and focus and direction sorted out before they start their university lives. Action plans may be produced for all practical goal-orientated decisions. All goal-orientated decisions, all practical decisions can have an action plan. An action plan, as I said earlier, states the direction, states what's required as an outcome, looks critically at the resources and makes realistic assessment of the resources available and the time and the personnel and the obstacles that are likely to be encountered and solutions. So it's planning out, perhaps on a piece of paper to make it a little bit more almost objective. But on a piece of paper, they're able to plan out what the outcome, the desired outcome is, and the way to achieve it. Now, the action plans may be applied to a wide variety of tasks. I've just given an example of picking a course at a university, but these can apply to any practical problem. To buy a computer, for example. We need to know what the computer will be used for. What's the budget? How much do we want to spend? What are the characteristics of the computer in terms of its specifications? How much memory? What speed will it run at? And so on. So it's itemizing the requirements, and it's also searching around the shops to see which one has got the best price, the delivery, the after-sales service, and so on. To become a teacher, similar to the example I gave about going to university. To travel the world, people who want to travel widely, they must have a plan. They can't just get up in the morning and decide to ramble off to another country almost randomly. They must have a plan. They must know which countries they're going to visit, where they're going to go, where they're going to stay the first night, what's the local currency, what are the medical conditions, all sorts of issues need to be itemized. And wide consultation, perhaps talk to other people who have done similar trips to find out what their experiences, what are the problems, what are the issues, what are the parts that must be achieved, what must they see when they go to other countries, and get a full picture, itemize it. To improve academic grades, how to work harder, how to research, how to compose good essays, how to participate in tutorials, how to complete assessments, how to acquire and assimilate and understand knowledge. Action planning model. Well, we take the initial current state. Think of a critical and a frank position statement of the initial current state. So think of whatever it is we're going to do, buy a computer or go to university or travel the world or whatever it is. Think of the current state, the current position. How much resources have we got? What are our capabilities? What are our talents? What can we do? Now we're in the current state. This is what we're, and be as honest and realistic as possible. This is where we are at the moment. Now look at our aspirations. What do we want to achieve? And try to make them that what we want is achievable and also measurable. So where are we at the moment? Well, we hold a diploma in management studies, business and management studies. Okay, but we want a degree in finance, or we want a degree in marketing, or a degree in management. Now that's realistic because we already hold a diploma, let's say. It's achievable, people have done it before, and it's measurable. We know if we've passed or failed the degree. So we have our aspirations are giving us a direction where we want to go, and the aspirations are realistic and achievable and measurable in the example I've just given. So it's important, whatever the plan relates to, that the aspirations are realistic, achievable and measurable. Now the modus operandi, how we're going to do it. How will we go about achieving the aspirations? Well, list all the various course of actions that are possible in order to achieve the desired goals. So list out all the ways you can imagine of achieving the desired goals. Go back to the example about studying for a degree. Do you want to study part-time and keep work and get some money keep flowing in? Can you afford to go full-time? Would you consider working and doing it part-time because working gives you valuable commercial experience as well? It keeps you in the market. So what's the modus operandi? How will you achieve the aspirations? If you're going to buy a computer, you have to be realistic about how much you're going to spend. You have to be able to spend that much. It has to be achievable. You have to be able to go out and do it if you decide it's a good idea. And this has to be measurable. Will you end up with a computer at the end of the day? So is it measurable? Yes or no? And the modus operandi? Well, look at various computers. Look at various shops. Look at what you want to use the computer for. And then make the decision. So we've moved from the initial current state, where we are at the moment. We've looked at our aspirations, what we want, what we would like to achieve, and we've looked at a way of achieving them, the modus operandi. And having got the modus operandi, we move to action. We instigate the changes to bring about the desired outcomes. So we move to action. If it's buying the computer, we might physically go to the shop. We've identified the shop, we've identified the computer, we go there. If it's doing a degree, we have identified we've looked at our aspirations. We want to hold a management degree, let's say, so we've identified that. It's realistic, it's achievable, it's measurable. The modus operandi, we need to find a course that will do this and where it's possible to for us to achieve our aspirations. And then we action it. We go and do it. It might be that we have to revise the current state, analyze outcomes in the context of aspirations. Sometimes we have aspirations, but when we finally implement our plan, we find that the outcomes are not exactly in line with our aspirations. So we might have to go back to our aspirations and modify them. Think, really, what we wanted to do was too ambitious, or it's not fully achievable, or the outcome is not what we expected. So we're in this process of updating our aspirations. Now, the way we would do this in practice, we'd probably have some sort of forms with boxes to tick, and we would itemize all of the steps to be taken and show where we got to. So a form may look something like that. We'd have a plan title. What do we want to achieve? Go to university, let's say. Step 1, objective, do a management degree. The completion date, when do we want to complete it? And what are the advantages of doing it? What are the rewards? So in this case, we want to purchase a car. So we would have step 1, research the online various car models available. When do we want to finish that particular search? Well, I want to finish it on the 30th of March. We need to have step 1 finished on the 30th of March. And we need to be able to think back about what happened and make sure that we had a good process, a good research process by the 30th of March. Step 2, consult family, friends in general and colleagues for their opinions. So we want to talk to people. We do that between the 30th of March and the 5th of April. And we go through all the steps in buying the car until we get to step 8, purchase the car. Could have it for the future career. Research the requirements for qualifying as an accountant. We want to be an accountant in this case. When do we want to finish our research? Well, the 30th of March. then we'd have, let's say, 2 days of recreation, 2 days break from it, do something else, go visit friends or relax. Then we start again. Produce up-to-date resume, a CV, a curriculum vitae. So produce an up-to-date one. That's important. And we do that on the 5th of April for 1 day. So we do it on the 5th of April, and then we have 1 day recreation. That's the reward. That's what we award ourselves. We reward our achievements. And we reward our achievements by having a day off. But now we've got a resume, an up-to-date resume. Now we identify appropriate educational institutions to commence study. So we look at fees, pass success rates and admissions requirements. And that will take us up to the 15th of April. And having done it, and we'll do it intensively, then we'd have 2 days rest. We reward ourselves 2 days rest. So the rewards is what we give ourselves for having achieved these outcomes. And we go through all the various steps, and we go to 7 when we end the plan. Now that may be just a simple way of working out an action plan, but it is effective. We know where we've got to, we know what jobs we've done, we know what we need to do. We haven't missed anything, we've thought about it. All the steps required have been written down. They're all achievable, they're all measurable, and we've even got rewards for ourselves. When we achieve something on time, we reward ourselves. That's all I'm going to do on action planning. It is important because it's what moves us from the current state into what we want to be. It's how we action, if you like, the requirements for moving from one state to the next. That's all I'm going to deal with in this session, so I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.